Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. As-salatu was-salam ala Muhammadin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilman. So, assalamu alaikum everyone. This is a short video about an audience question that we had received for the forgiveness course, and this was actually at, I think, one of the first sessions that we did. And at that time, I had answered it, but upon reflection, I would really like to talk about this subject in a little bit more detail because it is a very important subject that many of us unfortunately deal with, and that is the subject of family estrangement. And the question went something like this, and I'm going to be paraphrasing and perhaps filling in some details from my end. I mean, I don't know the exact circumstance, but the question was about a family member who has cut off relationships, who have chosen to distance themselves from this person. And the question was, what can I do? How can I get someone who has cut off to reconnect with me, to forgive me, to rebuild that relationship? So the way I would like to do this is actually with a little bit of heart work journaling, what we call doodling, actually drawing out some things and working from there. And I invite you to to follow along. So I'm going to switch my camera so that you can see what I'm doing. And so this was the question, what a family estrangement, what can I do? How can I get somebody who has chosen to cut off to reconnect with me? So it might be valuable, when we are confronted with such a situation, to first of all, to see who are the different players, who is involved in the situation. So of course, there is me. So I'm just going to draw a little doodle of myself. I am within my circle of control. We've covered the circle of control many times, but basically these are the things that I have some agency over, I have some control over. And then the other person involved is, who is the person who has chosen to cut off. And they are, of course, in their circle of control. So, and then, of course, we know that with everything, there is always a third entity, and which is the entity of God, of Allah, of, whatever, however you like to conceptualize God. And so it might be valuable to actually look at myself, what is my role, my job, and what is the other person's job, them, their role, their job, and or their business, however you want to think of it, and then what is God's job. So, when I am thinking of somebody cutting off relationship with me, I feel very powerless, right? I feel that, of course, this is something that they have done unilaterally, perhaps. I didn't have a choice in it. And therefore, I might feel like I have, what can I do, right? And it's a good idea, actually, to write down some of the things that we can do. So my intention is to leave a door open, perhaps. And how can I leave this door open? What are some of and what I recommend is that you actually write it in terms of easy, harder, and hardest or most challenging. So what are some of the easy things that I can do? How can I keep this door open? So first of all, I could perhaps commit to saying salam whenever I see this person, if I see them. If there's a group chat, a group WhatsApp chat, if they're part of it, I can, respond to their messages, send emojis. I could smile at them when I see them, for example. So these, and of course, it will be really, these things will be different for different people. The idea is that we actually write down what is in my circle of control. What actions do I have control over? So again, the easy, harder might be, think of something that might be harder with someone that you have a conflicted relationship. Striking up a conversation, perhaps. When you see them, or if you don't see them, sending an email, sending a birthday message. These are, slightly more challenging because, of course, they put us at greater risk of vulnerability, right? Than simply smiling or saying salam. Then what are some of the hardest things, that I could even consider myself doing? So, asking for a meeting. Simply asking them, why, why, what did I do? Why are you upset? And of course, when you're doing that, if you choose to do any of this, I would really recommend that you get some coaching, or you write down, you rehearse with yourself or somebody else, how you're going to manage your own emotions, how you're going to stop yourself from getting triggered. So these are, again, first let's start with the low-hanging fruit. What's the easiest thing you can do? Then, move on to more harder, challenging. So again, another way to think of this is, set a low bar for yourself and then set a high bar, and always start with the low bar things. Meeting in public, saying salam, smiling. What else do we have control over? Definitely, setting intentions. So what is your intention? What is your attitude? When you meet them, how you greet them, how can I resource myself? That is again up to me, all of these things. So now can you see, from a feeling of powerlessness, suddenly when I have written down all of these things that I can actually do and broken them into some sort of categories, easy, harder, hardest, what am I willing to try, where do I begin? Now I can actually have a plan. So suddenly, from a feeling of helplessness, now I have somewhere to go. I have some things that I can try. Of course, now, so this is all of my job. This is, you see how much of it is in my control, okay? What is their job? Now, even if I do all of it, right? Even if I do all of that, how they respond, how they react to, whether it's the easiest thing, whether they say salam back to me, whether they respond to my smile, whether they show any softness. All of this, none of that is in my circle of control. All of this is their role, their job, their business, okay? As long as I am within my circle of control, I am living my best self. I am showing up, things that would make me proud of myself. Then, I am in action, I'm at pause in my own life. Now, of course, where does God fit in all of this? One other powerful tool that I have at my disposal is the tool of dua, is the tool of supplication. And in this situation, how do we call upon God, right? We say that He is muqallibal qulub, that He is the turner of hearts. He is the one who can join hearts, right? Who can mend, and so we obviously continue with that, with the supplication. But if we only do the supplication and we do not do what is in our circle of control, then then how is it going to work, right? Of course, we do all of this, we do the dua, and then we pray that Allah softens their hearts, right? That there is some opening, that we see some kind of movement. And again, to remind ourselves that our job, our role is to do all of these things. Their role is How they respond, that's up to them. What they do, again, is up to them. And then, of course, I always have recourse to dua. I can not only pray to God to soften their heart, but I can also pray for them, right? I can pray that they find the healing that they want, and that they need, and that they react to what I am doing, perhaps in a softened way, in an open way. So hopefully, inshallah, this is slightly, it gives us a framework, it gives us something to do, because it can be really frustrating when this happens. And sometimes we don't even understand why. We don't know why that person has cut off. We don't know what we did wrong. And so if we commit to ourselves to doing the minimum, to working within our circle of control, to doing what we can, always recognizing that we are only responsible for the process. We can do what is in our circle of control, and then it's their job. It's their job, it is their responsibility to respond in however way they choose. And of course, to continue, involving the third entity in any relationship, which is God, to ask, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, right? To turn their hearts towards us. So, inshallah, I hope this has been useful. Please, try this. Try this exercise the next time you find yourself. I hope nobody needs it, but if you do find yourself in a situation like this, and I would love to know how it works. So if you have any questions about that, I will also upload, the picture that we drew together, so that it can remind you of what we did. Okay, so thank you, and Assalamu alaikum.